Guys, I'm all for working stuff out, but sometimes you just gotta know when to call it quits. Okay, so in our continued effort to catch up with the massive backlog we've had since the year began, we're going back to Malcolm and Marie, which was like the Oscar bait quarantine movie that came out back in January. That's how far back we are now. So finally caught up on it, better late than ever. I don't know how much there is a demand there is to talk about Malcolm and Marie. I know I was thoroughly irritated through the entire hour and 45-minute window.
I did a very minimal amount of research on the background of this film, aka I watched a uh, Ms. Mojo top 10 facts about this movie, and apparently it was filmed in my home county uh, for a month last summer, and they had to self quarantine in Monterey for 2 weeks, and it's filmed at a house in Carmel, so uh, that kind of struck my curiosity. That and I like artistic black and white films. It's a not a dying art, but an art that is not as common anymore, and I still think there's a place for it in modern day cinema.
I'm
So
sure there is, but there's also the other kind of black and white movie that thinks it's being smart by being in black and white and has this much grander, loftier goal, but is really just a pretentious asshole up its own, just sniffing its own farts. Not talking about things that think sound intelligent or talking things that think it sound intelligent, but really just regurgitating at a very shallow level, and you're stuck with them for an hour and 45 minutes. Uh,
I think you just described John David Washington's character.
yes, you caught my whiff. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Fuck, I hate these characters.
I
I hated both of them. They're just like, you people are fucking toxic as hell. You're
they're
so
exhausting.
They're so pretentious. They go around in circles. Eventually, it becomes the same fight over and over and over again. And it's like, I don't need this level of toxicity in my life right now. You
Uh,
two just break up and go and drive away for God's sake. Save us out in all an hour and 45 minutes of this circular bullshit.
they don't resolve anything. They don't communicate in any healthy or productive way. It's just a series of shouting and passive aggressive contests with one another, and uh, I I'm for all the drinking they did over the course of the movie. I'm surprised one of them didn't pass out sooner, because just watching them fight for an hour and 40 some odd minutes is exhausting.
It's just exhausting and it's just pointless. Like nothing is accomplished, nothing of depth is made. The performances are good. I'm not gonna knock Zendaya and I forget
John David Washington,
John David
Denzel's son.
Washington. I'm gonna call him John. Uh, Zendaya and John's performances, because they're very very good performances, but the script is just shallow as fuck. But it thinks it's being so goddamn deep, and it is so far up its own ass. And this is one of those movies where it's the worst kind of projectionist movie, because you can like, this sounds like this is the director airing their dirty laundry. That's what this movie felt like for majority of it. And I looked it up. The director's white, so it's not all projection. But I'm also wondering how much of it's just his idea of what he thinks black cinema is. Um, which that is complete speculation. I have no idea if that was what it was. I didn't care enough about this movie to do deep research on to try to figure out Sam Alexander's motivation. Um,
I know that he's worked with Zendaya before on an HBO series called Euphoria.
I heard Euphoria is very good. He made Assassination Nation. I really liked Assassination Nation. So I was disappointed that this one was this one. This shallow, incredibly pretentious bottle of noise that just is so impressive with. I'm sorry, Sam Levinson, not Sam Alexander. Um, it's so impressed with itself and how it's like saying all these things about filmmaking and art and what it means to be a filmmaker and how it means about combating your own like your ego and emotional struggles, but really like it's just two awful people being awful to each other and saying awful things.
And they're both on ego trips with each other.
Yeah, and it's just a series of fight, make up, laugh for a bit, kind of maybe sort of like pretend to have sex, then get another fight, repeat on nauseum for an hour and 45 minutes. And every time we're like, oh my God, will this thing just fucking end? It becomes another circular argument about, well, you said this thing in the 10-minute mark, and now we're going to talk about that instead of, back when it came up because reasons.
And it just ends. They don't say, okay, we're done. They don't forgive each other. They don't try to grow. It just ends on a shot of them standing outside while she's smoking, and I'm pretty sure he's hungover, so neither of them are in any clear frame of mind to actually resolve anything for themselves or the audience. It just ends with what sounded like an Outcast song about there being a fine line between love and hate, which is I love song relevance in movies, but even that was a little on the nose for me.
Yeah. Like the soundtrack to the movie is doing a lot of the fucking heavy lifting in terms of
I noticed that.
definitely in subtext. And that's kind of the worst part of these pretentious films. It also has that soundtrack goes like, are you getting the point of this? This is the purpose of the scene. This is why it's here. It's like, oh, fuck off. The part that just actively like brought me from just annoyance to just pure hatred of this movie. By the way, if I didn't just see Sia's music yesterday, I was like, this movie, I would probably think this movie is worse than I currently do. But I did just see Sia's music yesterday, so nothing's gonna top that for a while.
Thanks again for sparing me from that.
You're welcome. Anyway, so but like it's the part where this filmmaker who, by the way, gorgeous house. Fucking Carmel.
Apparently, this house in Carmel is pretty famous for how it's architecturally laid out.
Like houses in Carmel are like the most absurd houses like in California. I swear to God. But I digress. Where's it going? Oh yeah, is the fact that so he finally gets like good movie. He's talking about all the white critics and how they're not going to understand what he was saying and how it's not political. And that, to me, that felt like massive projection on part of the director, who's probably one of like those. And not everything has to be political things. Like everything kind of is political.
And then in this movie, a white film critic gives John David Washington's character Malcolm a good review,
a positive review, but like doesn't understand the point, and then goes on a 20-minute tantrum. That just goes on and on and on, and I was like, what am I supposed to be getting out of this?
It's an unending, very loud tirade for a positive review.
And Zendaya's over here laughing. I'm like, are we supposed to find this charming? Is this a charming moment? And that's what I'm supposed to get out of this? Like, what is like? He's not even just like ranting about it. He's literally like outside. He's like throwing shit. He's kicking air and he's throwing his body around like just poor like John Washington, just trying to make something of this fucking material. And it just and the end of the day, it just comes off like as a 10-year-old having a tantrum. And it's like, good Lord, grow the fuck up. Be adults, for God's sake. Have a mature conversation. I did not like this movie.
Or if you can't have a mature conversation, which they don't, just call it a night and go to bed.
Or just break up and leave. They gotta have another car, right? Take the car and go. Why are you there? And for that matter, why do you leave all the doors open? That's a nitpick, but that bothered me.
Well,
I've never been the person that like wants to take a shit and leave the door wide open for my partner to walk in. Like, you taking a shit? Yep. Okay. All right. Talk to you later. Like, no, close the fucking door. That's not a group activity. Fucking close that shit.
No, it's not. there are some things that I prefer to do alone.
I have never known shitting to be group activity unless you're into that. Then maybe,
I think it may have been in ancient Rome, but
maybe.
a lot,
But you know what we're
a lot
not
of
in
things
right
were
now,
different back
Sarah?
then.
Fucking ancient Rome. Close the goddamn door. And by the way, for Mr. Washington, you know what does not help your case? To bang on a window from outside where you're currently throwing a tantrum just to go, I'm fine! I'm mentally stable! You're the crazy one! And with no self-awareness whatsoever. And it's like, if it was a joke, maybe that'd be okay, but then he goes in there and just berates her in this most like horrific way for 30 minutes, and she doesn't instantly just leave for some reason.
They're just in this unhealthy pattern of trying to one up each other with toxicity.
And it's like, just break up. Like, we know that this is going. Just break up. There's nothing salvageable for you here. Just
The only
leave.
people who don't seem to know that is them, is
Which,
these
like,
two characters.
if maybe that was the point of it, you might have had something to work with, but I don't even think that was the point of it. I think the whole thing was more like, oh, but they still love each other, so they'll still stick around, which what the ending kind of implies. And I'm like, no! Which again, to me, just really reinforces my belief that this is just the director just had a really pissy time in quarantine and just needed to air out his dirty laundry uh, and used it not just to air out his dirty laundry of his relationship, but also like shove in all his like beliefs on like the I don't want to say the woke culture because I fucking hate that term, but just the idea
On
like
the politicizing of cinema.
politicizing everything and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, it's always been political. You're just stupid. Uh,
Yeah.
it's kind of like when people say about comic books, like, oh, I hate when people put comic books in my book politics in my comic books. Like the X-Men are an allegory for racism and or the civil rights movement, and they fucking said that explicitly.
And
Captain
and
America punched a Nazi in his first issue.
Captain America as a comic first started as pro-war propaganda.
Like, everything's political. The reason you don't see it's political is because it's politics you agree with. But that's a whole nother rant for another time.
Yeah.
So like the problem is like, and that ties in my main problem with this movie, at least with the John Washington's character, is the fact that it doesn't feel like his own voice and his own character. It feels like just the director just projecting himself into this character as much as he can.
I mean, they're both passionate performances, and kudos to both the actors to basically carry this over hour and a half bottle show. It's just the two of them moving throughout a house and a little bit of the yard outside it, and that's it. There's no flash or flashy special effects. There are no extras. It's just the two of them and them yelling at each other for a little over an hour and a half. And yes, it's exhausting, but they both give it their all, and I got to give them props for that.
Like I said, the problem here is not the performances. The problem here is just the fact that there's absolutely no reason to care. Which is what it really boils down to. There's no reason to give a shit. There's no reason to be invested. It is just loud noise of two insufferable people that you're stuck in this fucking great house that they are not enjoying with the doors open, and just being the worst kind of people to hang around. Like, I mean, God knows, I'm not gonna say I'm not pretentious from time to time. I fucking know I am. That being said, at least if somebody says, hey, maybe take it down a notch, I'll say, oh, sorry. Instead of, let me tell you for 20 minutes why a positive review is bad. Unless it's for music.
That was rather unnecessary.
So, fuck. I did not like this movie. Talking about it now is making me very angry.
I didn't like it either. There are things that I like about it. They're both charismatic actors. They both give it their all. I I enjoyed seeing a a gorgeous house shot in black and white. I appreciated the cinematography.
I don't really know why this movie needed to be black and white though. That was one thing that was kind of bugging me. Like, why did this need to be
Maybe
black and white?
maybe to save money.
I mean, that's possible. I guess. Sure. This movie had like a shoestring budget.
Hmm.
I don't know what that was.
But I I didn't like that it was basically a circular codependent sparring match for over an hour and a half, and I didn't like how exhausting it was to watch. And I I took it off of my Netflix queue as soon as I finished watching it. It's like, okay, I don't ever have to watch this again.
Nope. I don't think this will make my worst list come to, because like it's frustrating as all fuck, but it's not that bad.
It's
Um,
it's not a terrible movie. Where it does where it doesn't merit its own existence. It's not a campy so bad. It's good movie. It's just an exhausting film.
it's exhausting, it's frustrating, it's obnoxious, it's up its own ass. I don't know what anyone's supposed to get out of this at the end of the day, and I think that's really the biggest problem. Is it seems to be just sound and fury with no purpose, other than the director worked through some personal shit. That's like, again, I have no idea if that's true, but it fucking feels like it. Uh,
There might be something to that. I didn't do that much research. I just know that the director and Zendaya had worked together before. That it's shot at a famous house in Carmel, and that Netflix paid a lot of money to have it on their streaming service because they saw something in it.
I mean, that doesn't say much. Netflix will buy fucking anything, uh,
Anything they can afford, I guess.
which is a lot. They have a lot of money. Um, Anywho, I don't really have a lot to say about this.
Me neither. Like I said at the top, there isn't as much. I don't have as many thoughts on this film as I usually do.
I still feel like I got a fair amount out of this. So I won't beat yourself too hard about that. Like I said, if I didn't just see Sia's music yesterday, I'd be a lot angry about this, which should tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Did you end up doing that one by yourself?
oh no, Muha, God bless him, volunteered, and we just we paired that with Psycho Gorman to kind of like as a palate cleanser. Uh,
Nice.
I'm glad we saved it for that because God, we needed it.
I'll probably rent that from Amazon just because I want to.
I'd recommend it. It's pretty good. Yeah, we had a great time with it. But yeah, I don't got a lot else for this. We'll see what we come up. I know the new Disney movie's out. Like the Raya.
Yeah,
For
people who pay for premiere access, which means Disney wants to milk more money out of you.
At least this one looks more worth it than fucking Mulan.
Hmm.
So if it's a good movie, I might be willing to fork money to support it. But fuck Mulan, no way.
Yeah, I after Beauty and the Beast, I haven't financially supported any of the live action remakes.
Yeah, and then of course there's Tom and Jerry, which me and Grant probably watch next week. So that's gonna be a whole thing. So
good luck.
Thank you. We're still catching up. We're chipping away at it. We're getting closer. And we'll see what we get to next week. So thank you guys for watching. See y'all later.